hello, and welcome to the VH Saturday podcast. I am Henry.
And I'm Allison.
We will be hosting you through this, but first, I think we should explain what this podcast is about. So
We are a couple in the Seattle area. So needless to say, we're just a couple of hipsters who love retro shit. And on the weekends, we have this little...
I guess I would call it tradition?
Yeah, we have this little tradition where every weekend we go to thrift stores and,
just find all the weird VHS tapes that we can.
Yeah.
And we get films and movies, of course, like everyone else does, but we don't want to review and share that because that's been done and tried and true. We all have watched old film reviews on VHS, right? So our goal is to share with you the strange and unusual, the odd and obscure, weird found footage that is out there floating around.
Yeah, so as you are aware, in year of our Lord 2021, no one watches VHS tapes anymore.
No one does.
People like us. So,
we're weirdos.
So basically, like, these secondhand stores just give them away. And they have tons of tapes just like lying around. And so we kind of take it upon ourselves to sift through and see if we can find anything unusual or that catches our eye. That's maybe, interesting. And we take it home and we just slam some White Claws and watch them.
I want to know how much landfills are just filled with VHS tapes. What is the ratio of like landfill garbage that is dead VHS tapes?
Yeah, honestly, I view this as recycling.
Yeah.
Like, if we didn't buy them, they would just be in a landfill somewhere. E.T. for Atari style. Just buried in a landfill. So, we might as well just share our findings with the world and anyone willing to listen. So, we unfortunately weren't able to go this weekend because there is the
worst snowstorm in Seattle in the last 50 years, apparently. That's what this slated is to be. We're looking at like 8 inches out my window right now.
Aw, yeah.
Fun times. But we do have a huge backlog. So if the internet goes out, we got plenty of VHS tapes to keep us occupied.
We have a lot. And so since tomorrow is Valentine's Day, we thought it would be appropriate if we looked through our collection for something that was a little more lovey-dovey, and this was the closest that we had. What are we watching this week, Henry?
It's a film called E.S.P, Extra Sensual Perception.
Yeah.
By Penthouse Video.
Penthouse. Okay, so this is where I think it's a good time to put in a content warning that this is a porno.
It's not porn, but it's porn.
Yeah, we'll get into that later. So, if you're listening to this podcast around, maybe like little ones or at work or something, people in earshot might not be so fond of, us saying the word fuck and talking about dicks or lack thereof.
It's Schrodinger's porno. It's is it a B movie or is it a porno? Like, depending on what shot you're looking at.
So the cover of this VHS tape is like, so you have the letters E.S.P in this like glowing red.
It's like, Photoshop 3.0, outer glow effect.
Extra sensual perception. And then there's like a black and white picture of like some people making out.
Is that our main character? Our main character and one of the
Fabio.
Great Value Fabio is what we call the main character. His name is Damon, but he looks like Great Value Fabio for you to have a visual.
Yeah, he's got this like long blonde hair and he's super like chiseled, like very like male model. Look to him.
Is that the other main character right there?
I believe that's Art Ho Laura.
Yeah.
And then we have this cutout of a woman in like lingerie, kind of like peeking over the back of her bare shoulders.
And the edge of the photo on that is kind of torn and weathered. Very 90s. This was filmed in 98 for the record.
Yes.
Very 90s. And then it also has Photoshop's early afterglow effect there too.
Yes.
Around the edge of that. The back. So here's the synopsis on the back of the film. When a fashion photographer suddenly realizes he has the ability, through simply touching a person, of experiencing both their wildest erotic fantasies and their most recent sexual experiences, his whole life is changed. Amazed at the depth of intensity of that which he is able to experience, he plunges headlong into the pursuit of increasingly frantic erotic encounters and experiences. Soon, he is unable to distinguish between reality and fantasy, and he feels himself slipping under the spell of uninhibited erotic experimentation. What is real and what is imagined? Only the camera can tell the difference. It's 95 minutes, and it's surprisingly rated R.
Yeah, okay, so let's just kind of, before we begin, let's talk about how this movie came to be. Unfortunately, there isn't a lot of information online, but Penthouse, of course, is like a porno mag that's been around forever.
Right.
And they have had many different media ventures throughout their company's history, and one of them is video. And so there are a lot of just Penthouse tapes out and about
that are legitimate porno. And then apparently someone said, you know, what if porno but also B-movie? Mm-hmm. And that is how we got E.S.P.
Yeah, so it is a full-length movie, but it's structured like vignettes. So we follow our main character.
First of all, where do we find this film?
Where did we I think we found this at St. Vincent's.
St. Vincent's, which is a Christian thrift store.
And let me tell you, that is the most, to this, of all of our ventures, that is the most impressive VHS collection at any thrift store I've yet to see.
Yeah, it's quite huge. And depending on which one you go to, the prices are basically free.
Yeah, weren't these like 25 cents a piece?
One of them we went to, they were 25 cents. The other one we went to, they were $1. So yeah. we paid between 25 cents to $1.08 for this.
Yeah.
So
worth it?
Yeah.
Worth it.
Yeah. It was entertaining. So I guess we'll just get that to the...
Yeah.
Why was it entertaining? Because it's a good film? No.
I feel like it's more like human instinct that kept me watching it. Okay.
To give you an idea of this film, I want to say it's like if you imagine watching porn and you get the really paper thin plot of, I'm the photographer, oh, here's my client, and then things happen, that paper thin plot, somebody at Penthouse said, what if that, but full length?
I have to say, the plot, quote unquote plot of this movie is very like you can tell it was made by someone who makes porn for a living, because you know how like in Stephen King books or whatever, like the main character is always like a writer down on his luck, and it's like obviously like a self-insert type thing. I kind of got the vibe with this. Like, I mean, obviously a lot of porn is like self-insert, sometimes more literally than others.
Self-insert.
But you know what I mean, that it's like, you know, he makes erotica and he's making a lot of money and people are judgmental of his work. And anyways, so basically the gist of the story is that Damon is a photographer, and he's kind of down on his luck. Like, he's not making a lot of money. He has to tell his girlfriend that they're not going to be able to pay the rent this month. And she's fed up. And she says, I'm moving back in with my parents. I'm done with you. I'm gone.
Well, not quite. She didn't say they were done. She said she's moving back with her parents. And he's like, so then we're done. And she was like, no, this might make it better for us. This might help our relationship. And he's like, that's what you said when you stopped sleeping with me 6 months ago. He's like, so I'll help you pack. And she got really booty bothered that he was just kind of like, all right, clearly we're done.
Mm-hmm.
And like, you know, he could have taken that like way worse. You know, when you think about like this big macho dude, you were thinking he had been like really ragey, but he was like, all right, yeah, you know what? I'll help you pack. And she's the one that got mad.
Yeah, honestly, I'm not gonna lie. Like, I really like Damon as a character.
He
like,
subverted what I was expecting for the main character of this.
Like, although, you know, like all of the, you know, I use this term loosely, characters in this movie are very like shallow and don't really have any personality. Damon is like, he's very calm, he's principled, he never uses his powers for evil.
It gets a little creepy.
Yeah, but okay, we'll get into that. So okay, so
first off, once you start the movie, when you put the tape in, there's no previews. There's no
it just jumps
it just jumps in, and after you see the like production name, titties. Just like,
yes,
first shot is just
the first shot.
It's just
titties,
and it's just a montage of like boobs. And as like you get these opening credits, boobs, opening credits, boobs, opening credits, boobs.
Yes, it wastes no time.
It lets you know what you're in for.
Yeah, and I mean honestly, like, okay, so when I was originally looking at this tape, I didn't see the Penthouse video down at the bottom when we first got it.
Yeah.
I thought this was gonna be, because it's like rated R, so I'm like, okay, so it's not a porno. It's probably just some like risque. Honestly, I thought it was gonna be like a stalker horror movie.
Some of the scenes on the back remind me actually of Ghost with Patrick Swayze, the way they're like framed on the back.
And how it's all like this like black and red, like it just looks like horror movies from the time with this like glowing text and stuff.
Yeah.
Like it gives off more of a horror vibe than like a porno vibe. And you know, talking about like, oh, he's slipping under the spell, what's real and imagined, that I'm like, oh, is this some like Disturbia type thing? Or like I've seen Lifetime movies about photographers, you know what I mean? So when we were discussing what movie we were going to watch this week, we had a couple options, but this one I was like, oh yeah, you know, this should be fine. And I didn't really know what to expect. And I was afraid like, oh, this could just be porn and we'll have nothing to talk about. It is porn, but I feel we have a decent amount to talk about.
Like, even the porn scenes are questionable porn.
Okay, so straight up, there's no penetration. You don't see any actual, like, penetration, but you see lots of, like, nudity and
a lot of implication of penetration.
Yeah.
There's one character, Tony, that we see.
Tony. Oh my gosh. We have to back up a little bit before we get to Tony. So where the whole plot kicks off is, so, you know, Damon's a photographer and he's at this art gallery. And I guess this art gallery is owned by his girlfriend's
They have a mutual friend, yeah. But and this mutual friend moves in on him because she's like, oh, yeah. I heard Mary left you. And he's like, oh. She's like, yeah, I guess. And she's like making a move. And then he's like kind of into it, which fair. You haven't been late in 6 months.
She was coming on super strong.
She was very obvious. She was very, and like he tries to play it off like, oh, you know, you're
good guy, Damon.
Yeah, he's not. He doesn't immediately go in for it. But when she's like, no, man, I really want you, and he literally says, if this is charity, I'll take it. That's my favorite quote of the film. If this is charity, I'll take it. Like, okay, let's not front. Like,
Damon's down. Her name's Laura, by the way. In my notes, I referred to her as Art Ho Laura.
Yeah.
So Art Ho Laura, is like, oh, come into my office. I've got some whiskey in my office or something. So they go into her office and like, she's like, oh, check out this art piece that I have. It's my favorite piece.
It's this little clay looking thing.
This little clay figurine. I honestly can't.
It looks like a dong. It's vaguely phallic shaped.
Yeah.
It's got like a long shaft, and then it's got like
a circular bottom.
but it's painted very ornately, very Native American-esque with the art. It's like a a stereotypical Native American phallic clay art piece.
Yeah, and it's, it's like palm-sized. It's small. And so she's holding it and she's like, hey, check this out. Don't you think this is cool? He's like, yeah, cool. He like picks it up and looks at it. And when he touches it, he starts seeing like his first fantasy, right?
Right.
So basically, this talisman gives him the power that anytime he touches someone, he can see like their most erotic, deepest sexual fantasies.
But also, apparently, according to the back of the box, it's
and
their most recent sexual experiences.
Yeah.
So he sees that, and then he realizes he has this ability, and then is that when he kind of just freaks out? He walks down the street, just starts like touching everybody.
Yes.
Which is when I found it was creepy, because he's just literally walking down the street, and like any opportune moment he has to like graze against somebody, he is, and then he just like. So he's just walking around with like a raging hard-on down like down Main Street.
Like this busy city street. He's in like a main city and he's just walking down the sidewalk, and like anytime a hot girl passes by, he'll like, kind of like
graze against her. Which is, you would just expect walking down, like, we're in Seattle, so you just imagine that. But like, I think this was shot in like LA. So just imagine downtown LA, just walking down the street, and it's like Great Value Walt Fabio just like bumps into you. You just ignore it, right?
Yeah.
But then there's like, it got creepy as fuck to me this one time, the very last one we see after this montage of like grazing people.
Yeah.
He goes to this one hot woman that comes out of this office building. She's carrying a coffee, and then like he like bumps into her. She spills her coffee, and then he sees her fantasy, which is like getting fucked in a ballet studio.
Yeah, like she's a ballerina.
Tony? Was Tony also?
Yes, okay. But we don't know that it's Tony.
So we see this African American gentleman in this ballet studio, and we're like, okay, this
and they're just like fucking on
the balance bars and stuff like that, and instead of saying sorry, I made you drop your fucking coffee, he just goes ballet, and that's
and so she just like doesn't even think twice. She's like, yeah, whatever, and walks away. And I'm like, okay, so if I just bumped into some random dude on the street and he like
spills my coffee and then says what my deepest fantasy is,
I'd be like, that's a little weird. How does he know that? I wouldn't just like... Well, I would just walk away. Let's be honest. I'd be like, get me out of here.
Get the fuck away from me.
But like the look on her face was so just like... Nah.
It's LA.
Yeah.
Just another day in LA.
Just another day.
Fucking...
She probably hears way weirder shit.
Way weirder shit from other like Fabio knockoffs. So it's LA. You just see like, like which Fabio knockoff is this? That's like down on their luck, like...
Oh, let me guess, you're a photographer.
A photographer in LA. Yeah.
Yeah, real original.
Sure, your studio apartment's great.
I'm sure it doubles as a studio. Anyway, so like, I do have to say, so like you mentioned your favorite line in the movie was,
if this is charity, I'll take it.
Yeah. So my favorite line in the movie is like, when he bumps into this woman, it's like in front of a newspaper stand. And like, it like shows the newspaper stand, and like, there's this handwritten sign on like a piece of cardboard, and it's like written with like Sharpie, and it says, top story, drug lord Johnny.
Drug lord Johnny.
I don't know why.
Wait, do we see Johnny later? Is that one of the fucking... Yo.
Oh my God.
We will meet Johnny in a minute.
But first, we have to...
I don't know which one of them is Johnny, but...
Yeah, we've talked about Tony. We gotta get to Tony. Okay, so then, like the newspaper lady just walks away. We don't see her for a while. And it like cuts back to the art studio. And, he like bumps into an intern or whatever at the studio and like sees that she is also fantasizing about fucking a black guy. And then we're like, wait, is that the same black guy? And at first I thought like they just like ran out of actors or something, and so they were just like, you know, using the same guy. They're like, yeah, he's a black guy, whatever. Like, you know?
It's a fantasy. Yeah. Just put him in there. Everyone's imagine the same dude, whatever. Yeah.
Because like all the women, they're technically different women, but they all look exactly the same.
They are all clones.
This like 90s porno blonde bimbo, like
blonde
fake
hair.
titties. I think we saw one pair of real
Everyone
titties
had very obvious 90s boob jobs.
Yes, like especially the biker lady. Okay, we're getting ahead of ourselves. Okay, so then in the background we see the same black guy from their fantasies like hanging up a painting on the wall.
Oh, we need to mention Tony's second fantasy with the art fantasy. We gotta mention what happens to that before we even find out his name is Tony. So we see Tony, the black gentleman, having this fantasy in the fantasy of this art girl.
Yeah.
And she's like painting, and he comes into this studio and they start like playing with the paint, and like she's like
they're like laying on the floor,
and it's like there's like white tarp on the floor.
Yeah, and he already has green paint on one of his nipples.
I think we saw her like when she grazed him, she had like paint on her hand, and like the first time she touched him, she just gets paint, but then she paints a heart on his chest
with like yellow mustard like paint.
Yeah. And then they start grinding, and they're just like throwing paint around each other.
And isn't Tony wearing this like leather man thong
the entire time? So we see a lot of implied penetration.
Yeah.
But when the camera pans out, we see that Tony is technically clothed.
Yeah.
He has
but it's like it's not porn. It's very like rated R porn.
Yeah. But I got uncomfortable when they almost exclusively started using red paint eventually.
Yes. It was like a scene out of Carrie. It was like
just blood red paint splattered all over each other's chest, just being smeared.
Yeah.
Right.
As they're just like rubbing their bodies against each other.
If you could take screenshots from that scene and show it to me and say this is from a 90s horror film, and I would believe you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like it's hands down.
You ever seen those videos on YouTube where they'll make like a fake trailer for a movie and switch up the genre?
Yeah, so like Forrest Gump is a horror movie.
Yeah, like Scary Poppins and stuff like that. Like I feel like you could definitely do that with this movie.
Oh, hands down.
For sure.
Hands down. We can make easily turn Damon into like some creepy stalker.
Yeah. 100%. So then, Damon meets Tony in the studio that Tony just started working there. And so, of course, that's why all of the women who work in the studio are like fantasizing about him. And so, at this point, I'm thinking like, okay, so he was walking down the street and like bumping into all of these like beautiful women and seeing their fantasies. And I'm like, he hasn't bumped into a guy at all. Like he doesn't see any male fantasies. I'm like, cowards. Penthouse, cowards. Like, show me what the guys are thinking about, Let me see what's going on. Well, the closest they got to that was he shakes Tony's hand when he introduces himself, and he sees a glimpse, we wouldn't want to see any, like, dicks or anything gay, but we see that
Tony's gay!
Tony is gay. So, like, all he says is he's standing, they're not even facing each other. They're literally standing side by side. And Tony's just like, forget about your girlfriend. I'll make you feel real good. And that's like as gay as it gets. And I'm like, you
Tony kind of disappears after that. Like,
yeah,
Tony,
where did the fuck
Tony
did Tony
came,
go?
He gayed and left. Like,
yeah, so in my notes, I put Tony's non-sexual gay fantasy. Because there's like, they wouldn't dare show two men doing anything together. Not in 98.
No, that would bump it up to NC-17 just on premise, just on principle. Like, it was homophobic 90s.
Yeah.
But like, this is the point of the movie when I'm watching this going, who is this for? Who is this for?
I mean, definitely the fact that we found this at a Christian thrift store really made me want to know the answer to that question. Like, is this just like sexually repressed older couples who are like, I would never watch pornography. Heavens no. But I would, this is just, it's extra sensual. It's just sensual. See, it's not sex.
So, like, honestly, God, when you grabbed this tape and I was like, yeah, sure, let's get this. I thought this was like, I thought this was going to be a, not sex education tape, but like, what's that one lady that's on like, Dr. whatever the fuck? She's like this old lady that like talks about dildos and shit with people. She's very open, sexually open.
Sue.
Fuck, what is her name?
Dr.
Ruth.
Dr. Ruth.
Yeah,
I watched a documentary about her. It was really interesting.
She's like 90. Is she still around?
I don't.
Yo, she is still alive.
She's still alive?
She is still alive.
Oh my god.
Dr. Ruth, killing it.
Born in 1928.
She has seen a lot of dicks in her life.
Hell yeah. You go, girl.
But
thank you for your cervix, Dr. Ruth. Henry's mad I stole his joke.
Anyway. But I thought this was going to be like one of those kind of tapes where it's just like, Dr. Ruth-esque, like, here's how a couple can like up their extra sensual perception with each other.
Become more in tune with each other.
I thought that's what we were getting. But now I got a B movie.
I kind of wish that's what this was, because the whole time I was just like, there was a point where I'm just like, can we just fast forward through the fucking? Like, I don't want to sit here and like watch these people.
The fucking scenes are drawn out too. They are long. God.
And the music is awful. It's like
30-second loops
of like smooth jazz
on a synthesizer from 1992.
Oh my god.
Thank you, Casio.
It's so bad. And it's like super loud.
Yeah.
Oh, it's almost like they completely mute like the actors, and you just hear this like overbearing like like, oh my god, it's awful. And so, I described earlier that the movie is vignettes, that it's pretty much just like Damon gets from place to place, and it doesn't exactly say like how he got there or why he's going there.
Oh yeah, there's a lot of things that are just like skipped.
Yeah, so the pattern is Damon is at a place. There is also a hot, horny chick at this place. They make physical contact somehow. And then in like what women want fashion, he's able to see their fantasy. And then this is the excuse for the directors to put in this like, quote unquote sex scene. And then as soon as that's over, it just like cuts to another, like, oh, he's in a new place now. And there's a new chick here.
There's a point where like we couldn't tell what was a fantasy, because like some of these women he's hooking up with and giving them their ultimate fantasy. He's fulfilling that. Some of these women he's just touching and seeing their fantasy, right?
Yeah. So,
but it doesn't tell you what's what.
Right. So to us, like to the viewer, you're watching this like, well, is this actually happening, or is this just like a fantasy in their head?
Yeah, are we seeing the fantasy, or are we seeing the fulfillment of the fantasy? Because both happen with no acknowledgement of which one is happening.
And so I have to say that like props to Stefan Rudnicki, the director, that like there was a moment when we were watching this when I kind of like realized that I was like, I don't know what's real and what's not. And then I was like, oh shit, the back of the fucking box. He's unable to distinguish between reality and fantasy. And I'm like, bro, me too. What's going on?
What is real and what is imagined? Only the camera can tell the difference. Yes, only the camera can. Like,
I sure as fuck can.
Because there's one point when like we see a fantasy and then we come back to reality and they hadn't happened yet, and you're like, wait, I thought they were fucking already.
Yeah, but like, you know, like it shows her like taking off her shirt and they're fucking and whatever. And then like when that scene is over, it cuts to a scene of her taking her shirt off. And I was like, wait, I thought she already took her shirt off.
Nope. We weren't there yet.
Yeah, and so I'm like, okay.
But we haven't gone to the actual continuing the plot now.
Oh my god, this shit goes off the rails.
So then Art-Ho Laura and him strike a deal, because what ends up happening is he's using all these fantasies to fuel his art, because he was an artist before, but his art photography wouldn't sell. I know what that's like. But
follow at Neo_Robo on Instagram. Buy a print.
But so he starts using these fantasies to recreate with models and then shoot them, and then this starts selling in the gallery. Mm-hmm. His first one sells for $33,000.
Yeah.
And Laura says she takes half because she's the one that like gave him and
she owns the studio.
She owns the studio, and
that's where all the clients are coming and seeing.
Yeah, it creates this partnership between the two of them. Now it's a relationship and a business relationship at the same time.
Yeah, so we see him fuck Art-Ho Laura more than any other girl in this movie. That like she's kind of his main squeeze. That like
she didn't have the Victorian era.
No, that was a different girl. Okay, so Art-Ho Laura, because she's the one who was in possession of this, you know, talisman that gave Damon the power, she has the power too. So like, you know, they're having really good sex because they can both see exactly what the other one wants. And so they're just fucking all the time. But Art-Ho Laura is a little crazy. So whereas Damon, his powers, he's just like along for the ride, right? Like he's having a great time. That like it gets to a point where all of these women are like coming to him because they're like, oh, I hear you can make my fantasy come to life.
Yeah, word gets out.
Yeah, and so then, you know, they're just throwing themselves at him, and he's just like, fuck yeah, like let's go. And he's just like boning all these hot chicks, and then like, but Art-Ho Laura is like, it's all about the bottom dollar, baby. Like I got this power, and I'm gonna use it for monetary gain. So I'm thinking, oh, Boba. Henry's cat is, oh, hi, baby. You want to sit in my lap? Come here.
Anyway.
Guest appearance. Hi, Boba.
So Art-Ho Laura starts taking full advantage of, like, he has to crank this art out constantly. Yeah. And
it's never enough money for her.
And he's becoming filthy rich. Like, like he becomes a millionaire essentially.
Yeah, he's got to the point where he has so much money, he's literally just giving out wads of cash to people on the street.
He becomes real good guy Damon. But first, I want to talk about the Victorian era fantasy that we got. Was that the one girl who like that we found out like word gets out? She just looked like a straight like porn star librarian.
Honestly,
she starts to take herself out. Like
there were so many, it's like hard to keep track. We see so many different fantasies.
My favorite fantasy is, I believe it's that one. She comes in and she's like, "I heard you can fulfill my fantasies." Touches her and like immediately it's like Victorian era dress, and she starts taking it off. We see this like ornate like vanity mirror, but the background, the backdrop is this black curtain that no one at Penthouse Video apparently could have been fucked to iron.
It's just this like Walmart sheet, this black sheet just like pinned up on the wall with like wrinkles in it.
There's wrinkles and there are very clear creases from it being folded.
Yeah. It's like you couldn't iron like the one set piece.
No, because they were going to go return it to Walmart after they got done filming.
And they reuse that fucking sheet in so many. So like, okay, you remember when he goes to the strip club?
Oh, is that the same sheet? Was that the same set of the strip club?
Okay, so there's a scene where Damon goes to a strip club and he's getting this like private lap dance.
Wait, why does he start going to the strip club? Because he has run out of clients coming into the gallery. He's like running out of people.
Yeah.
And so he's like, and they literally tell him, well, you're running out of upper middle class white women.
Yes.
They're like, why don't you go find some seedier women?
Yeah, so he goes to this like sleazy, like what LA really looks like.
The red light district, essentially. Like, basically, you know, like imagine Beverly Hills, right? That's where the movie mostly takes place. Beverly Hills-esque looking places. Mm-hmm. And then he goes to Hollywood Boulevard.
Yeah.
That's what it is. He goes down to Hollywood Boulevard.
Yeah. And so then he goes in this strip club and he's getting this like private dance from this stripper. And she's just like, she's really good at her job, you know, like, but she's a stripper, you know, she's having a hard time. So like he sees her fantasy and just in like a total like subversion of our expectations, her fantasy is her and Damon laying together side by side in bed, reading books, you know, in their pajamas with their glasses. They're like obviously like a married couple and they kiss each other goodnight. I love you. And so then he's like taken aback by this. He's like, oh my God, this girl, like
she just wants
stability
love. And normalcy.
Yeah, just a normal
and she's
life.
But she's stuck as a stripper.
Yeah, and she mentions like, you know, I'm just having trouble paying the bills and
because he starts talking to her about it and stuff, and he's like, you know what? He pulls out this fat stack of cash. A wad. That's how he tips her. He's
just like, use this. I know what you're looking for, and you're not going to find it here. Go get a better job.
It's like, use this to pay the bills.
Yeah.
Go to school, get a better job.
And she just like takes the money and just like walks away. And I was like, honestly, yeah, like Damon is a good guy.
Good guy, Damon.
Like if these powers were in the hands of like, you know, some kind of like
Laura?
Shitty Exactly. We see how power can corrupt people. Laura is corrupted by her powers, but Damon's a good guy.
He leaves a strip club, right?
Yeah.
And then he finds a pimp.
Yeah, and then he walks out of the strip club and this guy, he's just like, hey, so
find what you're looking for in there? You want something a little bit more hands-on?
Yeah.
and like Damon's always about to say yes, but the guy keeps like talking shit to Damon. Essentially, he's like, dude, just let him answer. He's obviously gonna say yes. Like that's what he's looking for. He wants a hooker.
Hey man, you pain in your pants.
Damon was literally about to say yes, and then the pimp cuts him off. They keep trying to sell him. It's like, you got me already. But then, like, instead of getting the hooker, what he does is he gives another fat stack of cash to this pimp and tells him, go get a real job, man.
Yeah. And then
get this pimp off the streets.
You know, then we see the pimp's fantasy. I like when they show the male fantasies in this film because I feel like they're so fucking like piss scared to even like toe the line of anything homoerotic. But we see the pimp's fantasy is like
just pimping out more women.
Yeah, that he's just like in this bedroom with a harem of scantily clad women, and Damon's just like in the corner and he's like, hey, why don't you join us, buddy? Like, and then it, you know, obviously cuts off there. We're not going to see anything gay.
Then we meet the gangsters, right?
Okay. So Damon ends up in fucking jail. He ends up in jail. How did he get there? I honestly don't remember, but like he ends up in fucking jail.
Did he? Oh, because he ended up in jail because at the art gallery again, there was a girl, and he wanted to see her fantasy, but he couldn't get around to her, and so he tries to play coy and say that
look, it's Mel Gibson.
He says, look, it's Mel Gibson. She turns it, and he takes her earring.
Yeah.
He tries to touch her earring to see if it's real or fake or not, right? And then it comes off as she feels that he's trying to
like steal her earring because they're like genuine diamond, they're expensive
like $50,000 earrings.
Yeah.
And so now she has placed charges against him for that's technically grand theft. Anything over $8,000 is legally grand theft.
Yeah,
so
like
he's
assault.
in jail.
Yeah.
Assault and grand theft.
So
a lot of bills there.
Yeah, so he ends up in jail, which is like, you know, this really shitty set, like these like jail bars. And, you know, he's sitting in there, and there's one other guy in the jail cell with him, and it's this, like, zoot suit wearing fucking, like, Italian mobster guy. Like, and he's just, like,
do you want
offering
a cigarette?
him, like, cocaine.
What's this? Oh, yeah. You're like, want to do a line? He's like, in jail?
Yeah.
He's like, and then he's like, my men own the guards, no big deal.
And I'm
it's
like, wait.
Well, if you're a mobster and the mob owns the jail, why are you in jail? Like,
why are you sitting in this fucking... It's like, he loves doing cocaine with people so much that he just, like, sits in the jail cell all day and waits for people to show up so he can just do coke with them.
He's a social coke doer, right? He can't do coke by... Like, if you do coke by yourself, you got a problem. So he does it socially... And, you know, you can't get as good of a line on a normal bathroom public toilet. It's gotta be a jail cell toilet. There's nothing left on there.
Imagine, like doing cocaine, like you're coked up and you're just, like, trapped in a jail cell with, like, what do you do? What do you do?
I'm just imagining fucking, like, Eric Andre, let me in, but it's like, let me out, just shaking the fucking bars instead of a fucking iron rod fence. Let me out. And they're like, but you wanted to be in there, boss. You told me to lock you up. You own us.
So then he's like, fuck no, I don't want to do cocaine. And so he's like, well, how about a cigarette? And he's like, yeah.
Sure, I'll smoke a cigarette in jail.
Oh, because he sees the mobster's fantasy
was murder.
Yeah, that, like, his fantasy is literally, like, he has a couple tied up to chairs in their bedroom, and he's pointing a shotgun at them, point blank, and kills them.
Like, that's what gets this guy off, that's his flat out murder.
Yeah, and so, like, Damon sees this and he's like, oh god, I don't want your piss this guy off.
He's like, yeah, exactly.
So when he offers him the cigarette, he's like, oh yeah, okay, whatever you want, man, let's do some coke, haha. Like,
yeah, because then he's like, how about that line, actually?
And then unfortunately this gets him tied up with the mob,
because then he gets involved with the mob, and then but then he you know, he chooses to do that because he's like, oh, I can get some very subversive art out of the mob. Right. So then he uses his connection with the pimp to throw a party with the pimp's harem. He just gives the pimp a fuck ton of money and is like, hey man, let me borrow your girls. I'm going to throw a party. They're like, all right, cool. So then he tells, I think that guy was Johnny. Like, I'm going to call him Johnny.
Drug Lord Johnny.
Drug Lord Johnny. So he tells Drug Lord Johnny, hey man, I'm going to throw a party. Have your boys come through. So then he hosts this party with these prostitutes, and they're like, they told me you're the host. He's like, yeah. He's like, you know, we don't want anything funny. He's like, no, I'm just looking for inspiration for my art.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he's like, do whatever, you know, have fun. I'm just here for the art, man.
He's like, I just
good guy Damon.
It comes down to
good guy Damon.
I just want to watch. Do what you want with the girls. I just want to watch. That's our good guy Damon.
So let me snap some pics. So yeah, he throws this party and then he, like, takes pictures of all these mobsters' weird fantasies, which a lot involve guns.
What? Yeah, we
start seeing a lot of, like, gun fetishism.
There's like 3 mobsters, but I think we only saw the fantasies of, like, we got Johnny and then, like, bald guy.
Yeah.
Bald guy was
he fantasizes about playing Russian roulette with some...
I don't know, that's not Russian roulette. He just wants he's just suicidal, because Russian roulette has to be played with a revolver. This was straight up like a fucking 9mm, like fucking 1911. So
I don't know breeds of guns.
Well, okay, there's no roulette here. You put the fucking bullet in the fucking magazine, you load that in, it's gonna come out. Like,
okay.
There's no randomizing.
Okay, Artho Laura got a revolver.
Yes, Artho Laura was really, like, it was not loaded, right? She just wanted to, like,
fuck with
she
it.
just gets into gunplay.
Yeah.
But, like, you know, that's sus.
That's sus. I mean, what do we expect from Artho Laura at this point?
But yeah, she just falls deeper and deeper into depravity. But so these mobsters, right? They all have like fucked up fantasies, and then like he doesn't take the pictures of them. He promised them, I'm not taking pictures of you. I'm using this for inspiration, and he recreates it with models.
Yes.
And then and like the leader of the mob is all like,
he sees the pictures.
But before that, he's like, hey, if you ever need anything, let me know. I'll help you out. He's like, never need a favor. As a thank you for this like orgy we're having here.
Yeah.
Whatever you need. But then the mobsters, they see their art, and they're not pictures of them, but they're pictures of them. They're like seeing their deepest, darkest fantasies being played out by other people, and Damon does get artists that does get models that look similar,
right?
And so they feel they've been outed, essentially.
Yeah. So drug lord Johnny sees these pictures, and he comes up to Damon, and he's like, "Bro, what the fuck? Like, you're just putting my fantasies out there for everyone to see. Everyone's gonna know this is what I fantasize about." But like, he's saying this in front of like his other mobster friend, and it's like, if you wanted this to be a secret, why
wouldn't you just keep it a secret?
Yeah, like no one knows that's you, dude.
Yeah, but
it's a model.
They started like yelling at me like, I thought you said you weren't taking pictures, and he's like, those aren't you. These are models. Like, what are you talking about? This is very coincidental that I went and watched you fuck some people, and now I took some I made some art where it's your deepest, darkest fantasies. Which, maybe or maybe not, they acted out with those prostitutes. I don't think they did. So, which I could see that by the way, so then Damon somehow ends coked up again. And we see him on this bender. Because then he starts talking to Laura, and Laura gets involved with gunplay, and he's not feeling it.
And he's like, this has gone too far.
And he bails, and like, I assume there's a cut scene where he went to the bar and got super hammered, right?
Or something, because all we see is him stumbling in an alley, like freaking out.
And then like we see a silhouette of drug lord Johnny and other guy on one end, and then we turn around and this like Toyota Corolla pulls up and like other mobsters all come out, and we have a very poorly done fight scene. I've seen better fight scenes on the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers.
Yeah, that was some garbo. That was not good.
And then Johnny calls on his cell phone and says, "Hey, yeah, there's a guy." He calls 911, and he's like, "There's a guy bleeding out here on like 125th and Boulevard." He's like, "No, I'm not gonna give you my name, but he's pretty fucked up."
Yeah.
And like he hangs up, and then we see Johnny arrested again. But like, if he's bleeding out, the paramedics would have came.
Oh, because they planted a shit ton of cocaine on him.
He's in jail. He's talking to his lawyer, and he's like, "Look, man, they planted it on me. I got jumped. They planted it on me. I didn't have 3 grams of coke on me."
Oh, it was way more than that.
I think I said like 3 grams.
It was a lot. Like I don't do cocaine. Okay, I don't know.
I don't do the metric systems.
So I don't know, but it was a lot. It was like, okay, if I could describe the size of the bag, it was like...
I didn't even see them. I didn't see that.
Oh,
I must have been taking notes at that time. I just remember him telling the lawyer that he got planted.
It's like, okay, if you imagine, I don't know, like an iPhone, right? Like the newest iPhone, fucking like, if you were to put it in a sandwich bag, like that width, that's like what, 4 inches or something like that. I don't know, okay? It's a lot. It was like a fucking sandwich baggie full of cocaine, which I assume goes for a lot of money.
Yeah.
And is extremely illegal to possess.
He still wouldn't have been immediately in jail where he's still all fucked up and bleeding and shit. The paramedics would have taken him first to the hospital. And then he would have talked to his lawyers there.
Yeah.
And he would have been under like just watch at the hospital.
Mm-hmm.
And then he would have been taken to jail when he was recovered. That's how it fucking works, but not in Penthouse Video, apparently. You're just gonna bleed out in a fucking jail cell.
Go straight to jail. Do not pass go.
But like, he wasn't even that fucked up. Like, obviously the makeup crew was more focused on the makeup on the women than on how to make Damon look like he just got the shit kicked out of him. And He's talking to the lawyer. They make bail, right? And he calls in his favor from
Drug Lord Johnny.
From Drug Lord Johnny's boss.
Yeah.
And he was like, I'm sorry about my men. And he's like, but this is your favor. Sorry about your men. I can't do anything else for you from this point on. Just fine. You got him out of jail. And then we find out Laura has taken all of his money.
Mm-hmm.
He has, because he can't post his own bail because he's only got $5,000 left. He's like, what the fuck? I had $250K in there yesterday. And he's like, well, where did it all go? He's like, I don't know. He's like, does Laura have access?
Well, yeah. I didn't think she'd do anything with it. First mistake, bro. First mistake. Sign that prenup.
They're not even married.
I don't know. She's like, because the whole time she's like fucking some other guy. I don't remember
when he didn't want to do gun shit anymore, she's
like, well, I'll find someone who does.
So he gets the gun though, and like he goes into the bedroom, and then like they start fighting, and then like he tells the dude to get the fuck out, and she's like, no, he could stay, and then they start arguing. And this dude is like, all right, yeah, I guess I'll stay. And then then she tells him, get the fuck out. And he's like, what the fuck? And so then he grabs his pants and he literally tells them both of y'all are fucking crazy.
Yeah, which is
absolutely true. And because imagine meeting this guy. Art Ho Laura says, I got a bunch of fucking money. I want to fuck you. And I'm also hot. And you're just a normal dude.
But you also just gotta rub a gun on my naked body.
But it's not loaded.
It's not loaded or anything, just
But he's like, okay, sure, cool, I'm down. Yeah. And then ex-boyfriend comes in with a gun and they're yelling and they're both psychic and no psychic fuck powers, but you don't know that. You're just some guy that was like, okay, I'm gonna get laid. And you're seeing guns get thrown around and people yelling about fantasies and shit. You're like, what the fuck is going on? I would have got out of there sooner than he did.
People are crazy. I'm out.
Yeah, it's what the fuck? It's within the context of the film, you're like, wow, that's a fucking crazy thing. But then shift your paradigms.
Yeah.
Put your mind into his mind. And you're like, wow, this is a shit fuck situation I don't want to be a part of.
So after all we've been through, this entire movie, this whole journey, Damon is left with nothing. He's bankrupt again. He doesn't have his girlfriend. He's just down on his luck, and now he's got to worry about the mob and, probably
I think the mob is written off at this point.
Possession felonies and
oh yeah, he's got to pay off he's got to go to jail, but he's got to figure that out.
Yeah. And so he's just like, you know what? I'm fucking done with you, Art Ho Laura. You are crazy. You're messing up my life. And so he's like, I'm going to destroy this. No, he asked
how to stop it. And that's what they were wanting. That's what, when other guy was in there, they're talking about how to stop the fantasy.
Right. And how do I make it stop?
And they're like, I don't know. There's no way to stop it. That's I'm saying, if you're that guy, what the fuck are they talking about? You're just you got guns pointing and they're talking about how to stop the fantasy machine. And you're like, what?
Yeah, I just
wanted to get my dick wet.
Yeah. So yeah, he's like, I'm gonna destroy this fucking clay talisman. I'm gonna wreck it. I'm gonna wreck it. And so he points the gun at it. When it's
no.
it's literally it's made of clay. You could easily just throw it on the ground.
Oh yeah,
and shatter it.
He storms into the room. It's a decent sized master bedroom. Mm-hmm. She's on the bed on the other side. The talisman is on a mantle next to the door.
Yeah.
He's pointing the gun at point blank. This thing's made out of clay. She's like, no, she's gonna get up to stop him, and he pulls the trigger and shoots it. We see a shitty firework go off behind it. It's literally a black cat firecracker, pop. And we don't even see the talisman explode. We see something explode literally behind it.
Yeah.
A couple inches behind it, not even right behind it. It's
incredible.
Terrible
effects.
Pyro. Fuck. But realistically, Damon could have just grabbed that. That was within arm reach. He's a big guy.
Yeah.
He could have grabbed it and chucked it at the wall. thrown it at the ground, you know?
And he probably could have smashed it with his bare hand, just crushed it in his palm.
Like, I swear, he's just like, with quick one arm thrust of grabbing it and he whap, just grab it, and in the same motion, let go, throw at the wall. Done deal. The thing be broken, but nah, you gotta fucking cap it.
Yeah.
Cap that
Bust
clay dong in the head. Like,
bust a cap in that clay dong.
So...
And so, you know, he destroys it. And so we're thinking like, okay, it's all over now, right? Well, no, because then it cuts to him back in his studio in his like normal life, doing a photo shoot, with some hot chick, of course. And like, you start seeing her fantasy. And I was like, wait a second. So destroying the talisman didn't do shit. Unless they're actually fucking?
Yeah. I think that's what it was.
They're actually fucking?
I think that's what it was. I think he didn't have that because he went back to normal and like his art kind of went back to normal because his art eventually stopped selling too. His the art manager eventually, this is backtracking a little bit, was like, this shit's too weird, man.
Right. Once it started getting into the gun stuff, they were like, I don't know about this.
And they're like, it's art.
Yeah.
But which I agree, those are actually some really cool shots.
Oh like, yeah, like there was the one with the girl like pointing the gun
at the bald guy,
mouth.
The one that was suicidal. Like that was actually very well. There was like some dramatic studio lighting.
Yeah, it like showed the shot like in a frame on the wall, and it was like, that's actually a cool picture.
A really good shot.
We both said it at like the same time.
Like,
we were
that's
like,
actually a really good shot.
That's actually pretty cool.
Nice.
Yeah. Nice.
It's better than just people fucking.
Yeah.
Like, honest to God, I'd rather some subversive gun art where like, whoa, she's got the gun pointing at him, better than is much more like interesting to me as an artist than well, that's the people fucking.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
But so then we get to the end of this, he's back to just normal. He's doing portraits, but he's having some success with his art now again because he's got more art in the gallery. Because she's only like a partial owner of the gallery. Like the art manager, the one guy, like, this is too weird.
Right.
That's the guy that really owns it. So, but then out of nowhere, Mary, his girlfriend from the fucking beginning of the movie,
she just shows up and she's like, just kidding, I want you back now.
And he's like, okay.
Yeah, he's like, all right.
Yeah. So then he gets back with Mary. There's like a big romantic scene at the end, right? With like a letter and stuff written to him. I don't remember what it was. Like there's like it was like a weird montage of shit. I was like writing notes, so like I kind of like was not looking.
It was really like, so the movie just like abruptly ends, by the way.
Yeah, just abruptly.
It's just
like,
done.
It's like, well, the talisman's gone. I don't know what happened. We don't know what happened to Laura. Like talisman is gone. He doesn't have his powers. He's back to being a normal photographer, but he's having success with his art now. He got to fuck all these beautiful women, and now his ex-girlfriend wants to come back. Oh, she got mad earlier in the movie when she realized that him and Laura were hooking up again. That's what she like really stormed off. She's like, so it's true.
Yeah.
And she gets super mad, but it's like, yo, you broke up with him. You haven't fucked him in 6 months. You said you're moving out. Yeah, it's in bad taste to like start hooking up with your ex-girlfriend's friend, but at the same time, like,
yeah, like, why do you care?
Like, we haven't had sex in 6 months. We've basically been broken up for 6 months. You just can't pull off the fucking Band-Aid to break up.
Right.
So, you know.
Yeah. And you know what? Damon's a good guy. All right. I don't think he did anything in this movie that was like morally reprehensible, except for like, you know, you could tell he was starting to get corrupted a little bit when he was trying to like steal that bitch's earring.
I think he just got like, he's even said so himself. Like, he was like just too in the moment, was like, I don't know what the fuck I was thinking.
Because he was just trying to see her fantasy. He was trying to see, and so he was trying to like make physical contact with her, but she was being cold and was being like, can you go now? Can you leave me alone? So, you know, he's trying to pull some trickery, like, look, it's Mel Gibson, yoink, and like, you know, grabbing her earring.
Yeah, I think he even tried grabbing her earring. I think he just tried to touch her and like
and
snagged her earring. Accident. I think that's what happened.
I don't know. I just think that like, you know, at the end of the day, he was just trying to see the fantasy. He was like letting the power get to him a little bit, but that's the worst thing we see him do. Like
really all it was like, he knew this fueled his art.
Yeah.
And so he was like, and
Damon is an artist.
And as someone that is an artist myself, like you can't just crank that out, right? Art has to come. It has for it to like actually be meaningful. It has to like come from within, right? But like Laura is like it's like the content machine. Like we need to crank out the content.
Yes.
And so that's what he's like, I'm running out of people. He's becoming desperate to like crank out the content so they can sell, because when some of the art doesn't start selling, Laura goes off on him, and that's when she starts hooking up with the other guy, because now his art isn't selling, because she just was using him for money.
She's all about the bottom line.
And so, you know, like I feel for him. He wasn't doing because, oh, I need to be weird and do this and see the fantasies. It wasn't the fantasies weren't what was fueling him to do this. It was the fact that Laura was making him fuel the content machine.
Yeah. And that's where I'm talking about like the meta commentary on the pornography industry, is that like he's in it for the art. He just appreciates the pure eroticism and like the, you know, like he's just into the art. But then he has this bitch like breathing down his neck all the time, like, no, you gotta crank it out, man.
We gotta make more.
Get it going, make more money. Let's go.
I'm sure like left to his own devices, he would like occasionally make this kind of like erotica and then like put it in a gallery. If it sells, it sells. Cool, I can make my money. I can do my portraits too for my normal job. I could just be my photographer self and do my work and then do my art and maybe sell my art for, you know, either way. You know, that's what his goal is. And that's what he does achieve at the end. So it works out in Damon's favor.
Good for him.
Gets his girlfriend back.
Good guy, Damon. We love ya.
Good guy, Damon. Even if you look like great value. Great value,
Fabio.
The most interesting thing about about this movie actually is in the credits. We see a special thanks.
Oh boy, yep. I wrote this down.
Special thanks to Glenn Levitt's 12-year-old.
Yeah.
It literally says this.
Okay, so in the credits, you know, we're just watching the credits roll, and it's like, oh, production, oh, costumes, makeup, whatever, and then it's like, special thanks, and it's, you know, just like generic stuff you would see in the credits of any movie, and then it's just like Glenn Levitt 12-year-old.
Why is a 12-year-old being thanked
in a porno film?
A special thanks.
Insert X-Files theme here.
That is the largest question I have. Like, who is Glenn Levitt? Why was he having any involvement with this not quite porno at the age of 12? The kid's not even like 13 yet. He's a preteen still.
Is it the 12-year-old of someone named Glenn Levitt, or is Glenn Levitt the 12-year-old? Word for word, all it says is Glenn Levitt, 12-year-old.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I have a lot of questions.
Yes. But anyways, we tried to do more research on this film, and unfortunately there's not a lot of information. Penthouse Film is kind of, you know, it's seedy. There's not a lot of information on any of like the actors or anything like that. Like the director, everyone involved in this is pretty much just involved in small projects and mostly Penthouse projects.
Yeah, everyone, there was like another Penthouse video, like B-movie-esque of this.
Yeah,
and it's a lot of the same actors.
Cast.
Yeah.
What was it called? It's about like a board game.
A board game that makes people have sex.
Yeah, I can't. Yeah. IMDb is giving me some weird shit. But yeah, like it's just some other video. I would really like to see.
I feel like Penthouse Video, they've tried to branch out, like, let's make some erotica that is not porn.
Ultimate love games.
Ultimate love game. That's only second one. I think they did 2 of these.
Yeah.
And then it didn't pan out. And so they said, all right, back to porno.
Yeah. Yeah, back to print, doing the magazine, whatever. But there wasn't, I mean, there's just not a lot of information about Penthouse at all. Obviously, the most popular Penthouse film that people know of is Caligula. I haven't seen it, if I'm going to be honest, but, you know, that's the one that it's like an erotic film that was made by, or funded by the guy who owns Penthouse. I don't remember his name.
But I don't know if that's by Penthouse Video itself. Like that's
no, it's not. I don't think it's under the label, but it was funded by them. One interesting thing we did find though was that apparently in 1993, Penthouse released a video game called Penthouse Hot Numbers Deluxe
for MS-DOS PCs and Amiga.
And we were lucky enough that someone actually archived this game on archive.org.
Just run it in DOSBox in your browser.
Run in DOSBox. It's like a puzzle game, and you reveal, like, you click on the pieces of the puzzle and kind of like
they disappear
and reveal,
there's a naked lady underneath there.
Penthouse pictures.
You have 10 levels, so you have 10 nude models.
And it's like it's hard for me to describe with words. If you are over the age of 18, of course, and would like to see this for yourself, I found it through a simple Google search. And you can play the game. You can play the full game.
Game
make
is
sure
a very loose term.
It's okay. It's not a game. It's not a game. You just click stuff, and then eventually you see boobs.
I'm sure it was great in 1993 when there wasn't a lot of porn that wasn't ASCII porn on the internet.
Parentheses.
So much ASCII
boob.
porn. That was a thing.
Yeah.
I remember this in the mid-90s.
Oh my god. So yeah, that was really funny. I had fun checking that out.
Yeah, we were trying to just find more information about Penthouse Video itself, like what other films they did that were not direct porno.
Yeah,
but
and honestly, there's just not a lot of information.
I firmly believe they tried to branch out into erotica, and that's not just straight on porno. Cranked out E.S.P. No pun intended. Cranked out E.S.P. and this Ultimate Love Game, and when both of those flopped, they threw in the towel and said, nope, you know what, we just need to make real porn.
I did read about like Penthouse history, the magazine, and they did kind of go through this sort of like rebranding attempt that like they were kind of known for like having pictures of women pissing. And that was kind of like where the line was drawn between like legal and illegal pornography.
So Larry Flint was a big pusher for the freedom of expression, right, within it. And like the rivalry between Playboy and Penthouse was always that Playboy, you're not going to see penetration, you're just going to see nude, right? And then that's why there's kind of like, oh, I just read it for the articles.
Ain't nobody reading Penthouse for the articles. Well, except the articles. So like Penthouse was more like raunchy.
Penthouse
they had more
porn.
like fetish material of all kinds. And so that's kind of like, you see that reflected a lot in this movie, is that like, if all of the different fantasies that we see, they range from all kinds of different fetishes. Like we see some foot stuff. We see some
that foot shot went on very long.
Yeah. There's like cuckoldry, some like girl on girl type stuff, all kinds of like, just like BDSM and
I think what the reasoning for these films was Playboy was, they had a market. Like Playboy had a market of like, this is porn, but it's not like hardcore porn or anything else like that. That's like there was like the Playboy TV channel. That was a thing for a bit in the 90s, right? And Playboy would actually crank out some of these other like films. Playboy had a series of films that are very similar in vein to this.
Yeah.
And Larry Flint, or somebody adjacent to Larry Flint over at Penthouse, said, I want a piece of that pie. The people where we're too hardcore for them. We want to capture this lighter market. And I think it just didn't pan out.
Make porn more accessible, you know? But like Penthouse was like, no, fuck that. Give me that weird shit.
Well, I think they tried, because like this very much toes the line of like, is it a porno?
But it's not like, so that's what I'm thinking, is that like thinking about this like rebranding attempt that they kind of did, that like, they kind of got in some trouble with like their risque content. And I think that, when they were thinking about, well, we want to make more money, we want to reach a bigger audience, we have to kind of tone it down a little bit. Right. And there was sort of this like conflict about what they were going to do. And so I wonder if this was part of that, where they're like, look, let's make erotic films that like, we can sell at a normal like video store or something, that like it's rated R. There's not penetration. It's not like porn, that they're like, how much can we get away with and still be rated R?
Right.
That I think this is like beat for beat.
That's exactly what I'm saying. Yeah,
they skated around that rating system.
Yeah, exactly, because that's what Playboy had been doing for a long time. Like I remember seeing Playboy in like FYE, like next to the anime,
like where it belongs.
So like going to like Sam Goody in the 90s, and like literally like next to anime, there's like they had like
the shields over the covers,
as if you could just like pull that back as like a 13. You're like, titties.
Yeah.
But so I know for like I'm fairly sure that they were doing that rebranding. They were wanting to go for a wider market. They were going for a wider distribution. And they knew they had to tone it down a little bit. And that's literally what we have here. It is them attempting to do what Playboy had been doing with it's not quite a porno,
but
it's a porno.
It's a porno.
It's not a porno, but if you're desperate, it'll work.
If it's charity,
I'll take it. But so, I think that's really all we have to say about this movie.
Yes,
there's not a whole lot else. Like this podcast is about almost the length of the movie itself.
Wow,
the movie is 95 minutes.
Yeah.
So we've gone over the entire plot.
Yeah,
I don't know if I would have watched it again.
No, I wouldn't.
It's interesting to have. Are we going to keep this, or will we get rid of this to somebody else so they can experience this?
So we've flirted with this idea of, if you listeners would be interested in, getting a copy of any of the tapes we watch on this show, if there's one where we're like, I don't want to keep this, if
we're gonna open a Shopify, and we'll start listing these tapes on there.
We're working on our website right now, so we're hoping that for these tapes that we don't want, if any of you guys would like an autographed copy, because we have a podcast, so we're definitely celebrities
I'm definitely
now.
A celebrity now,
thanks to our 2 listeners that we have.
But
thank you guys.
Yeah, so
but yeah,
I don't intend on keeping this tape.
I don't want this in my personal collection.
This is not staying in my house.
But if you're someone who's like, you know what, you're horny, you like fake boobs, you definitely don't want to see anything gay.
Oh, speaking of fake tits, the biker lady.
Oh, we didn't even talk about
the biker scene. He gets in almost like a bar fight, like outside of a bar with some like bikers, and then like he touches one of them, and she shows like her fancy like just grinding around on a motorcycle, like so stereotypical
biker babe.
But then like he snaps out of it. And all these bikers are like shoving him, and they're like, "Get out of here! Get the fuck out of here! What are you doing? Get the fuck out of here!" And Damon's like, "Oh fuck!"
and like her boobs are like watermelons, bro. Like, and they're like 2 feet apart. Like, oh my god!
Watermelons, we skipped the
fruit milk.
The fruit milk.
I wrote fruit milk in my notes, but we didn't get around to it.
There was a lady who was like, want to be fucked on a table full of fruit. Some of it was fake. Most of it was real.
The pear was definitely fake, but the grapes were real because he was feeding them to her.
But she had some water balloons on her chest. Like
he was like grabbing her titty, and I was like, "You're gonna pop those water balloons, bro."
The 90s.
Yeah.
90s plastic surgery.
Wow. Good times.
They walked so we could run. But I think that's going to do it for this podcast.
Yeah, I don't want to think about this movie anymore. It's not a movie. This is porn. Put this in your collection if, like, you know, it's Friday night and you're alone. God, you're pathetic.
we don't want to review normal movies on this, and this definitely is not a normal movie.
I think, you know what, if we're going to be looking through VHS collections for some weird, obscure, low budget shit, inevitably porn is gonna come up. And like, you know what? We have porn everywhere now. You can find porn, all kinds of different porn.
In seconds.
And like, this kind of stuff just isn't really necessary anymore. I could see the need for this back in the day, like, you know, before the internet. Just like, you know, you're home alone, you want to crank one out, wife's been busy working, you know, like,
think of all the fantasies.
Pop this baby in, fast forward to your favorite timestamp, and, you know, like, that's fine.
And if you get caught, hey, it's not a porno, it's a movie.
It's rated R, honey. It's not porn. It's extra sensual.
But yeah, I think that does it for this.
Yeah.
So
okay, we're done. Thank you so much for listening.
We'll see you next week with another strange tape.
But before you go, please follow us on Instagram at VH Saturday Podcast. If you would like to send us recommendations or your thoughts on this episode, you can email us at vhsaturdaypodcast@gmail.com. Website coming soon. Thank you so much for listening, and have a happy Valentine's Day.
Hopefully a better movie or something is watched than this.
Yeah, so. See you next week. Bye.